Module 3, Metaphysics. Lecture 3B, Idealism. Idealism or idealistic monism. Idealism claims there is only one substance, and that is mind. We have already studied the idealism of George Berkeley, who claimed esse est percipi, to be is to be perceived. Everything is mine. To claim there's something more is to violate Occam's razor. It is to multiply entities beyond what is necessary to understand reality. Some Eastern religions, such as Hinduism, teach a form of idealism. The physical world is Maya, or illusion. Everything is part of an ultimate reality called Brahman. Many mystics also teach a kind of idealism that reality, including our individual selves, are part of some greater reality we can reach through meditation. Kant taught a kind of idealism. He believed in the real nominal world, but it was unknowable. All we can know is the phenomenal world, the world of our own minds. Later critics such as Hegel would say that if we cannot know the real world, there's nothing to talk about. All we can talk about is mind, how our mind sees and organizes the world. There is the challenge of solipsism. We'll have more to say about that later. Maybe only my mind exists. How do I know for sure that other minds exist? Philosophers speak of philosophical zombies, creatures that act like humans but have no minds. I can only know other minds exist through analogy to my mind, and analogies and logic are considered weak arguments. Hegel's dialectic. The German philosopher George Hegel, 1770 to 1831, was the most influential philosopher of the 19th century. He disagreed with Kant's vision of the categories of the mind. He believed that Kant was too static. He pictured a far more dynamic view of the mind, which he called Geist, spirit. The English word ghost comes from that. Spirit proceeds historically. Hegel invented what he called a dialectic of the mind. There are 3 steps in this dialectic: thesis, antithesis, synthesis. The thesis is what exists. The antithesis challenges what exists. And the synthesis brings about a resolution. However, the synthesis becomes a new thesis, and so history moves forward. All of history is the history of Geist, the history of mind. A classic example, which may be a little difficult to understand, but let me try. Thesis is what exists, being, ontology, what is out there. Antithesis is non-being, what ought to exist but doesn't yet exist. Synthesis is becoming, non-being becoming being. That's a little bit difficult. Let me give an easier one, an ethical example. Thesis: slavery is accepted. That was the way most of the world worked until 150, 180 years ago. Antithesis: abolitionists in books like Uncle Tom's Cabin challenge slavery. Synthesis: slavery is finally outlawed. I believe ethics works by Hegel's dialectic. Our ethical ideas evolve through this 3-step process. A contemporary example to really help you understand this: the average romantic comedy. Thesis: attractive couple meets. Antithesis: couple has fight and separates. Synthesis: couple comes together in the end. There's so many examples. See Crazy Rich Asians or an older movie, Pretty Woman. They all follow the same 3-step pattern. Can you think of other examples? The key idea to understanding Hegel is that human history is a history of ideas. Mind, or the word he used, spirit, Geist. His 1807 book was entitled The Phenomenology of Spirit. Later, Karl Marx, 1818 to 1883, would develop a materialist version of Hegel. He said he was going to stand Hegel on his head. To Marx, the thesis was capitalism, the antithesis was the workers' revolt, and the synthesis was communism. We will study Marx further when we study political and social philosophy. Is idealism true? Modern physics seems to point in that direction. In both relativity and quantum mechanics, reality depends on the observer. We spoke of two views of science. Realists say that scientific theories reflect reality. Non-realists, the epistemic view, said that science is true if it accurately predicts results but does not reflect reality. The results of quantum theory clearly requires the role of the observer and the act of measurement in creating reality. It is epistemic. For example, is light a wave or a particle? Neither or both. It only becomes one or the other when someone observes it. It seems true that Berkeley's idealism, long rejected by most philosophers, may be a better description of reality than originally thought.